What's up, guys? I'm home for the summer again from school, so it's time to get working on this old project again. I never quite finished it. I started building this breech load here, the bolt action thing I posted a bunch of videos about a year ago, and it never really worked quite the way I was hoping, so I'm upgrading it to this full metal version here. Everything else in the gun is pretty much the same. I have like the same old hammer mechanism here. The barrel, everything else is the same. Hoping to add this scope, but the main thing I want to focus on right now is the full metal breech load, so let's take a look at that. So here's what I came up with. The main housing is a flow regulator valve, slightly modified. Usually there's a bolt that goes through here with a hole in it that you can turn and adjust the flow. So I took that out and then I drilled out these holes in here to 5/16 on one side for this tube, and then a 1/4 inch on the front for BB to fit through. And then we have down here is just the nipple that goes to the hammer valve. It's just a modified 1/8 inch nipple, so I cut it off. I filed down this part so it fits in the 3/8 inch hole in the housing, and then I filed 2 flats on it so I can screw it in with a wrench. Here's a stainless steel tube. It's 5/16 outside diameter and 1/4 inch inside diameter. We have these 3 little prongs here, which I'll explain in a minute. This is just a bushing that I use in the back of the housing that fits this tube. And then here we have the main bolt. So it's just made out of a stainless steel machine screw. Cut the head off, and I machined an O-ring groove into here to keep it airtight. Then we just have some hardware over here that connects it to the linkage arm, and a spring that acts as a push rod, which I'll also explain in a second. So I'll assemble it now roughly just so you can see kind of how it works. So the bushing goes in the back here. The tube goes inside the bushing, and then the bolt goes in the tube like that. So now to give you an idea kind of how it works, you can see in the top here, this is where the magazine is going to go, and the BB is going to be stopped by the spring here, and you can see the airflow port through the bottom. That's what the prongs are for. The 2 on the side are going to hold the BB in the middle, and the one on the bottom is going to keep it from falling through. And obviously you need some airways for the pressure to go through from the valve. So the valve is going to go in the bottom port here. The magazine is going to come in through the top, and you pull the bolt back. It's kind of hard when it's not glued together, but you pull the bolt back. You can see the spring reveals the slot in the tube. A BB drops. You push this back forward. This is all airtight back here because of the O-ring, and then you can fire. Well, you're probably thinking there's a giant hole in the top. Well, the magazine's going to be not too big and also airtight, so no air is going to escape out the magazine and there won't be too much dead volume. So you can see the spring reaches through the front of the housing, which is where the barrel breech is going to be. So that's pretty much how this works. So just to kind of demonstrate how this is going to work, I have 2 BBs dropped in where the mag would go, and what you do is just pull back the bolt until one drops, and then push it forward. It comes out, pull back again, push forward, and it comes out like that. So here's where the breech is going to go. You can see the valve here exhausts the air into the port here in the housing. Then I'm going to have a coupling connecting these 2 connections together, and the linkage arm here is connected to the spring-loaded bolt on the barrel assembly. So that works like that. It's going to connect to the bolt back here using this connector, and the magazine is of course going to go right there. So that's pretty much how it's going to look. And now I just need to epoxy everything together, and it'll be good to go after it cures. Now you might be wondering why this bolt here looks so overcomplicated. and there's a reason for that. It is because I was initially going to have this part of the bolt slide through a copper tube like this, and while I was cutting out the groove for the bolt head to slide through, and that also works as kind of a limiter for the bolt travel. But anyway, while I was cutting that out, I put this all together, and I realized I don't really need a tube for that to slide in, because the fit of the bolt in the tube is so good that this doesn't really need any more support, and it would just complicate things a lot more. Plus, I think it looks pretty cool without it. But so I decided to just leave the copper tube out of it and try to make it work without, and see if that will do the job. Okay, here we are all assembled. All that's left to do with the breech load is put some epoxy on this joint here to keep the linkage connected, and add a magazine. So those things shouldn't be too difficult. And then for the rest of the gun, I just need a new barrel support right around here to keep the barrel and the chamber from separating, and I'll probably add a nice stock and a scope mount.